And welcome back to Mentored, business mentorship in real time. What do you need mentorship on today, Alyssa?
Hello, hello. I was thinking of talking about wholesale because I think that it's very different for your companies, maybe, and very different from, I feel like, where I am now, and then I think it'll change as I grow. So I think we should talk about wholesale. What like the importance of it?
Okay, first off, I guess what's your question about it?
Just want to talk about. I feel like I don't really have like it's not like an important question, but it's like I'm more curious about like for you how consistent wholesale has been. And then for me, I found that like I thought that in the beginning for my bakery that wholesale would be so much more important right now, but I actually make way less money for more effort right now, but I think that'll change as I grow. So I kind of want to hear about like how it differs on your end and then like maybe any experiences you've had with like other people about it.
Do you want
Cuz
to define for the listeners what exactly you mean by wholesale in this context?
where you sell to other retailers, is that like the right kind of thing? Maybe not like retailers, but you like sell to people who are also they just distribute your product. At least that's for me. So like for bakery, I sell to different like cafes, coffee shops, and they sell that to their final customer.
And in my case of like business number one, we're in wine manufacturing, so I would sell to a wine store wholesale. And then in my engravers, in my stamp companies, we do mostly direct to consumer, but we do have some resellers, I guess, which is the same kind of wholesale idea. So that's what
Yeah.
you're talking about is
Yeah.
the difference between wholesale and retail.
Yeah, because it's like, and then also too, like price point is different, right? Typically, you're selling to your wholesalers at a much lower price than what you would sell to like the final consumer because
Yeah,
everyone's trying to make money, right?
everyone's got to make their cut. Yep.
So that's also part of it, I think.
Yes. Okay. So I guess yeah, we can start there with wholesale as opposed to retail would be two different ways to sell your product. Um, Retail would be, of course, people walking into your own store and buying something. Um, and then, of course, e-commerce, selling retail online. Those would all be examples of, or going to a farmer's market and selling your product. Those would all be examples of retail sales. And then wholesale sales would you as a manufacturer selling, to a grocery store or to a hardware or name your industry. But if you're a apple farm, you would sell to a distributor who would then sell to a grocery store likely. And if you're a hammer manufacturer, you might sell direct to a hardware store. Many different things. So hopefully you get it if you're listening. Wholesale and retail, these are two very common terms as far as sales go. So obviously retail now depends on your business model, because if you're listening and you have a business that you're not a primary manufacturer, you may very well be selling, like retailing wholesaled items. So those would be items that you buy from your distributor or the company that makes them or whatever. And then the idea is you sell them at a higher price than you bought them for. And why doesn't a customer just go right to the distributor? Sometimes distributors or manufacturers don't want to sell direct to the client because it's just too small of a. They'd rather sell big amounts than little amounts. Sometimes it's just ease of access that like, well, we're not going to arrange a delivery to your house, so, and we're in some other country, so it's sometimes it's ease like. Grocery stores, the one of the greatest examples of like wholesale to retail, because they have thousands of different products from many times different distributors and different manufacturers, and they're very logistic heavy for those things. So wholesale, in my case, like my first experience with it would be for my wine manufacturer, which is the business I started in 2017. Shortly after, it took us about 4 months. but we got stocked in the government-run and owned liquor stores here in Manitoba. So the government has a monopoly on alcohol, so they're the only ones that can operate liquor stores, with some exceptions, but it's complicated, not worth getting into. For intents and purposes, they're the exclusive buyer and seller of alcohol in this province. So obviously a large wholesale account. Now, if you're, a bakery and you're selling to a little cafe or whatever, maybe they're only going through 1 or 2 cookies a day or whatever it is. But in the grand scheme of things, like this liquor corporation is, doing $2 billion a year of alcohol sales. So it's like a large wholesale client.
Yep.
Now, obviously, with the government being involved in taxes and alcohol and all that, it's a little bit more complicated with like how the taxes and everything works. But with my other companies, I sell stuff that isn't, taxed and regulated. So I'll kind of speak in more generalities, because I know many people listening probably don't own a liquor manufacturer that needs to get into wholesale sales. But the general idea is, if you've ever heard of the phrase, what is it? MSRP, manufacturer retail sales price, or manufacturer recommended sales price. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So MSRP, if you've ever seen that, trying to think of an example, like on the back of a book, they're common with they always say like what the price would be.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why that's the one that came to head, but anyway, but you've probably, or a car. That's probably probably one that most people know is a car has like an MSRP of this.
Yeah.
So that's a manufacturer's recommended sales price. So that's what me, the manufacturer, is telling you, the retailer, where I want the price to end up. Now, if you've noticed, when you go to like a convenience store, like a 7-Eleven type, and you buy a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk, it's more expensive than if you buy at a grocery store.
Yeah.
So the recommended price is exactly that, recommendation. You don't have to sell it for that, for the most part, unless there's some sort of contractual, obligation where it's like, we want all our prices to be this.
Yeah.
That's a different thing. But generally, the reason why a manufacturer would give a recommended sales price is because they've done the market research and they know that this price is about what the customer will pay. So obviously things will be more expensive in more expensive neighborhoods, or if you go to a richer, this like Coca-Cola is sold in every single country on earth, but you're going to pay significantly less in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, than you would in downtown Los Angeles in the United States for the same product, right?
Yeah.
Or if you go in, if you're buying a soda in a restaurant, it's $4, but if you buy it from the corner store, it's $1, right? Like, so,
right.
Different situations. So it is that recommendation. Now, from my experience, now every industry is going to vary, but usually we're looking at about 40%. So what you would do is sell to your distributor and or your retailer for about 40% of the recommended sales price. And then that they can mark it up 40% up to the recommended sales price, and then they can make, that's their cut. And then that pays for their, distribution, sometimes transportation and, whatever. And then also pays for the staff and the rent and the heat in their building that they're retailing it from, obviously. Now, it'll range. Like some of the bigger stores I've heard, like I have friends that are in grocery and they'll say like, you got to give them more because they don't care that, they don't want to work with small companies. So it's like, you got to give them more. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you got to give them 40%, and then plus you have to pay a restocking fee, and plus you have to pay for shelf space, and you got to pay all these things. Yeah. But a general, like in the most basic sense, there's kind of 2 ways to do it. Is one, as a manufacturer, you go directly to the retailer and they buy from you. And then another common way is through a distributor. So that would be a company, like say a big grocery store like a Safeway or whatever. They don't want to work with a literally 10,000 individual manufacturers. It's too much work, too much logistics. So then a company called a distribution company would be like, hey, we'll source all that for you. So you just buy from us and we'll find all that. We'll make all those calls and we'll buy all that. and then you can just buy from one person. So a lot of big companies, a Walmart or whatever, they prefer to work that you're working with a distributor. But I'm sure you can see the logic here. There's only so much money to give.
Yeah,
And if you're adding one more person to the equation, now all of a sudden there needs to be
even worse,
even some more money to give in, right? So
right.
so it's interesting. Like, it's a good exercise of like really understanding the margins of your product, like understanding how much discount you can give in the way in the process, and then still make enough money that it's worth it.
Yeah, I think that's my issue.
Because
I feel like I'm like not charging enough for what we're doing.
yeah.
But like also I don't know if we could charge more just because of it.
Yeah. So in a general sense, I always say this, like, to my staff and to you and to my business partner. I always say, like, to sell something, it costs something, no matter what. Like, if you're going to a farmer's market, it costs the farmer's market fee and it costs the employee to go. If you're selling on a delivery app like DoorDash or Skip the Dishes, you got to pay their 20% cut or whatever. If you're selling in your retail store, you got to pay an employee to stand behind the desk, and you got to pay rent for the building to be there. If you sell online, you got to pay for advertising to secure those customers. There's always a cost associated. So how I kind of think of it sometimes is like let's say 40% that you're giving to between the distributor and the retailer when you're wholesaling. Think of that like any other cost. Like, okay, well, I had to spend less advertising because now they're advertising it, right? So it's like there's always a cost. It's not like it's okay, I either get a 40% discount or nothing. There's always a cost associated with, and I think that's a trap that small business owners fall into, where because they're doing everything themselves, all they think of is, well, I'm just selling the same product for cheaper. Why would I do that? When in reality, they're not calculating all the hours that they spend selling that product in the first place, right? So, yeah. So wholesale in general, if you're a manufacturing business that can wholesale, I think it's always a good thing to look at. Like, I think being in more stores, in more retailers, gets you in front of more eyes, gets you in front of more people, which just keeps the snowball for your brand going. They say it's like an average of 8 to 12 times that a customer has to see your brand before they'll make their first purchase. So the first is they'll hear it from a friend. Then they'll see a post on Instagram. Then they'll see it on the shelf when they walk by and they don't really pay attention to it. Then they'll see it at a farmer's market. They'll ask a couple questions. Then they'll hear an ad about it on the radio. And then they'll see it again in their Facebook feed. And then they'll go over to their friend's house and their friend will have it and they'll try a little bit. And then that 8th time when they're at the grocery store and they see it on the shelf, they're like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. I've been hearing about this, whatever. So that's being in more retailers gives you one more chance to get that 8 to 12 or whatever in front of a customer. So I've always been pretty pro. But then, like, so I'll tell 2 stories. Hope I'm not yapping too much for you here. There's not a lot of back and forth. I'm just kind of talking at you.
No, that's okay.
But first story is something we both know, but I'm explaining it for the audience, is that we are familiar with somebody. We don't want to be too specific, but we've done business with this person before, and they are vehemently opposed. They had an opportunity to sell their product through a popular retailer of that type of product, and they declined it because they didn't want to make the less money. They said, this is what my product's worth. Let's say $10. And I'm not going to sell it for $6.
Right.
It's worth $10. That's what I made my math around. That's what I set my prices around. That's what I'm going to sell it for.
Yeah.
And then this relatively big retailer of this product that they had approached them because they had been hearing about the product, and they just said, no, we don't do that.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
So that's crazy to me. But then on the other side of the equation, on the other shoe, I knew somebody that either bankrupted themselves or close to, because they made that jump to be in retailers, and then they I knew them from the farmers market, so they slowed down in the farmers markets because like, well, this is taking all my inventory now for this being in a grocery store. And then they didn't find out for like a year that they were actually losing money on every product they were selling.
Oh no.
Because there's a lot of cash coming in.
Right.
Right.
But
there's not any profit being made. But there's like cash flow. But like if you're not paying attention,
yeah,
it can take you a while to see the cash reserves
just
slowly
keep
going down, right?
Oh my gosh.
Because if you start with like, so let's just say $100,000 of inventory and cash to make more inventory, and then you lose $1 a unit or whatever, and you do 10,000 units, you're getting paid $10,000, or like you'll get paid, let's say you get paid $100,000, but you only made, or you didn't make anything, but you only lost like $1,000.
Yeah.
So you got $99,000 back.
Yeah.
And now you have all that money to buy more inventory. You keep it rolling, and because you're getting an order here, and it's net 30, so you don't see the cash for 30 days, but you've already spent more money on a credit card to like keep it going. But then when the money comes in, you pay off the credit card, and then it's like you just keep the
it could go for a while, I guess.
You keep the money going. Like businesses operate at a loss all the time, right? You can still keep cash going. It's just like you're not making profit at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it took them a while to figure out and run the numbers that it's like, wait a second here. Every product I'm selling, I'm losing, $1 or whatever it is. So that's on the farther end.
Yeah, that's kind of sucks.
So I would recommend to you and to anybody else that wants to go into this sort of thing is like, you just really need to know your numbers. You need to understand how much money you're willing to give away, and then also how much money you can afford to give away, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Because sometimes maybe your product is too thin of a margin, and there is no room for a wholesale agreement, and then you just need to figure out a different, like, then this isn't for you. Then you just need to figure something else out.
Focus on something else. Yeah.
Focus on a different method of getting stuff over.
Yeah.
But I think the benefits outweigh the risks for me. The benefits being having a big paycheck is nice.
You're right.
Like rather than going out and selling $10, $10, just having a big chain of stores just buy 50,000 from you. Right at the and you just have that cash to redeploy.
Yeah.
That's comforting and nice, especially if like now I've done business with people, wholesalers, for 10 years, and it's like, so I have a pretty good idea of how much money is going to be coming in from them. So you can kind of plan your cash flow based on that, rather than like what the consumers feel like buying today kind of thing. And then the other, I think, underrated part of it is the, like I was saying before, the advertising of the, like, just being in more places. Especially if it's like, in your example, for instance, like the bakery, if you get your bread at a prestigious restaurant or whatever, it's like, now that you're associated, it's almost like, oh, like it brings legitimacy to your brand.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Based on... it's just like social proof, they call it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if Superstore buys your product and puts it on the shelf, it's like, well, if Superstore isn't dumb, they're not going to just put a shit product on the shelf. Like, that's the idea. I mean, they obviously need, personal preference and all that, but it's like, I'm trying to think of like a non-food one, but food is just such the big one. But
no, 100%. I mean, it's an easy one to like think about too. It's like grocery store, right?
Yeah. But like if you have a store that you shop at and you kind of trust their buyers and like they're they're not going to put a product that's just a scam on the shelf, right? They're not going to like where like if you're at a farmer's market, there's some things that are just awful and it's just like basically a scam. Like no one would ever buy. But you can sell enough of them because you keep having new customers.
Right.
Right?
That's fair, yeah.
But like nobody from the team at Sobeys or whatever is going to just put a scam on the shelf. It's going to be something that they think will sell.
Yeah.
Otherwise they're out all this money for it, right? So it's like this kind of, and I don't think the average consumer is thinking that, but I think it's like, it's subconscious. Like they look at it and they're like, well, you're in a store, so surely it's
Yeah, it's the legitimacy.
it's
Yeah.
legitimacy. So I think there's a lot of benefits to the business of wholesaling. And then there's manufacturers that I talk to that don't do anything but, like,
Yep.
there's places that are like, oh yeah, we don't sell to customers. We have one or two buyers and that's it, and then they
Yeah.
can figure it out.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Different like categories of, you know, manufacturing. Because I was thinking like just when you were talking to, that it was like I feel like for me to for it to be like worth it for us for the baker now, I think we just need like a lot more. We just need more clients,
Yeah.
because it's like realistically, it's like we only have like maybe 2 or 3 of them, and like it's just like not all the time because it's like we put all of our focus into the farmers markets and like direct to consumer right now.
Yeah.
So then it's like it's almost funny because then it's like, you know, maybe it is like a little bit more work to do that because, you know, you're baking, you're going to the markets, like all that, and then like when I do like a wholesale, it's like the same amount of work for like way less, you know. Where it's like, you know, the 2 or 3 little paychecks that I get from my wholesalers is like, you know, $300 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like with that we just had to get more clients, you know what I mean? We'd have to open ourselves up to like a bigger probably operation where it's like more consistent stuff too,
Yeah.
because I could see that being like a good plus for the business if it was like consistent
Oh yeah.
at the same
100%.
time, you know.
Well, yeah, because it adds like a layer, because now all of a sudden you're not just relying on your business to be consistent, but now it's like if you're a little bit slow, you have these other businesses that can like
Like,
fill in the gaps,
supplement
right?
it like a little bit,
because
yeah.
they're like, surely not everyone's slow at the same time.
Right, yeah.
So
I
it's
mean, like, yeah, exactly.
You know, so if like, you know, you have people that buy once every 3 months or whatever, all you need is, you know, whatever it is, do some math here.
Yeah.
You know, if you have 12 of them, now all of a sudden you're getting an order every month or whatever.
Yeah,
Or, you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like,
And it really is just like size, you know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
it's just, you know, you get like, you know, even if we got like the same orders, but like from like, yeah, like you said, 12 different people, then it becomes worth it,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So,
Yep.
makes
So
sense.
I think it's something you need to you should be pursuing, but I don't disagree with you that there's a time and a place where it's like you almost need to build your kind of retail and your brand identity before
before even
you
jumping into
because
that.
I've also done this as well. Like, we've had products that I convinced to get into a store and then they don't sell because nobody knows about them,
Right,
and then
yeah.
they get, you know, taken out of the store
Yeah, that's right.
because everyone wants to make money somehow.
Right.
And also, I think this is the last point I'll have on the topic, but I think I've said this before on this podcast or whatever, but avoid consignment.
I have heard that.
Go
Yeah.
the wholesale route. I think this is something that a lot of small businesses fall into a trap. Consignment being you give your product for free to the store, and then they sell it, and then they give you your cut. So if you're getting
Yeah.
if you do like a 40% wholesale or whatever, so they'll give you your 60% when it sells. Typically you would negotiate a consignment agreement to be lower. Like if you were going to give 40, maybe you would give 25% to them for that, because it's not money up. Like, there's no risk
Yeah,
on their
there's-
part,
yeah.
kind of thing. I avoid those, and I would tell you to avoid those as well. You know, if you're so confident that you're going to sell it, because that's how they'll try to sell it to you, is being like, oh, well, it's going to be great. You should, it's like, well,
Yeah, it's all gonna sell.
if you're so confident in that, you should just buy it up front, buddy.
Yeah.
I just never liked those agreements. I think it builds like a weird relationship with the vendor. There's like false expectations on kind of both ends.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's also just like not, like, I'm just not giving you something for free. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Yeah.
let's do some business together where both of us, you know, it's advantageous for both of us. But realistically, like, I'm not giving you something for free so you can sell it risk free, right? Like, I took
Yeah,
the risk
no.
here. You know, if I want to bring something and try to retail it and maybe it doesn't sell, let me do that. I would tell people to avoid consignment.
Good to know.
Yeah. Do you feel mentored today?
I feel very mentored today. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice.
Thank you for listening to Mentored Podcast, the podcast where we do business mentorship in real time. You can follow us, Mentored apostrophe D. Mentor apostrophe D. Spell the apostrophe. A-T. What is it? APOSTROPHED. Mentor apostrophe D on Instagram and Facebook. And then just Mentored Podcast on Twitter because the first one was too long for Twitter's.
Freaking Elon.
And then this is Miss Alyssa. Do you want people to find you ever?
No, they can see it if they watch the video.
PrairieWolfBakery.ca, right?
PrairieWolfBakery.ca.
PrairieWolfBakery.ca. You can find the bakery there, and then start listing off mine. Shrugdot.com, SHRUGDOC.com, MapleLeafRubberStamp.ca, CanadianMarking.com, CanMarkIndustries.com, DrunkDividends.com, WillowsConsortium.ca.
Ooh.
So please, you can find me
in the description.
in the description.
Nice.
Cheers.